Picture this: Moses at the helm, guiding his people through a tumultuous confrontation with the Amalekites. The air was thick with the clash of swords, the battlefield resounded with war cries, and the destiny of an entire nation teetered on the edge. In the midst of this chaos, a divine command was issued to Moses, as chronicled in Exodus 17:1. God instructed Moses to lift his hands high into the sky. But here's the twist: it wasn't merely about lifting his hands, it was about keeping them aloft without falter. This wasn't just for show, it was an act of unwavering physical and spiritual obedience. Why? Because as Moses maintained his hands in the air, the Israelites were not just fighting, they were winning. Conversely, whenever Moses' arms dropped from exhaustion, the tide turned in favor of the Amalekites. This detail might seem peculiar at first glance. Yet, this story from ancient times illuminates a profound truth about the spiritual dynamics at play when we engage in acts of faith and obedience. It teaches us that our physical actions, guided by divine instruction, can have a significant impact on the spiritual battles we face. Through Moses' enduring stance, we learn that steadfast faith and obedience can indeed sway the course of our struggles, revealing the power of the unseen in shaping our victories. The bridge to spiritual victory. The tale of Moses and the Amalekites uncovers a profound truth about the symbiotic relationship between physical actions and spiritual outcomes. One might wonder, if God orchestrates the outcomes of battles, why was it necessary for Moses to lift his hands? This narrative serves as a divine demonstration that our tangible actions can significantly influence the spiritual domain. It's a testament to the fact that physical obedience acts as a gateway to spiritual freedom. Diving deeper into this narrative, we encounter a pivotal moment where the physical act of Moses raising his hands triggers a remarkable spiritual response. Picture the scene. As Moses complies with God's command, angelic forces are mobilized. These celestial warriors, far from being mere observers, engage actively in the fray, their involvement intricately tied to Moses' adherence to God's directive. Hebrews 1:14 enlightens us that angels are ministering spirits, dispatched to serve those destined for salvation. Furthermore, Hebrews 1:7 portrays these divine messengers as fiery entities, embodying air, wind, and flame, whose actions in the spiritual realm are catalyzed by our physical deeds. The essence of this story lies in the transformative power of Moses' raised hands. With every lift, the dynamics of the battlefield shift, angels descend, and victory inches closer, all outcomes of his physical obedience to divine will. However, the moment Moses' arms falter, the tide turns, highlighting the precarious balance of spiritual warfare. 1 Timothy 2:8 underscores the significance of physical gestures in our spiritual journey, advocating for prayer with uplifted, pure hands, devoid of anger or dispute. This directive isn't merely symbolic, it's a strategic move in the spiritual realm, capable of altering the trajectory of our spiritual battles. In essence, the story of Moses isn't just a historical recount, it's a lesson in the power of physical obedience to unlock spiritual victories. It teaches us that our actions, as simple or as challenging as they may be, hold the potential to unleash divine intervention and secure triumph over our spiritual adversaries. The essence of physical obedience in spiritual practice. Navigating the realm of spiritual obedience, it's crucial to understand the role of physical actions devoid of anger or dispute. When divine guidance prompts us towards a physical gesture, it's an invitation to engage in an act of faith and surrender, not a task marred by resentment or skepticism. How often do we find ourselves hesitating or questioning when asked by God to perform such acts? The essence of lifting our hands, for instance, should be embraced without resistance, embodying a direct pathway to spiritual freedom that surpasses our emotional and intellectual barriers. In today's world, it's common to confine our relationship with the divine to mere emotional or intellectual engagements. We rationalize, claiming an inward sense of humility negates the need for physical expressions of worship like kneeling or raising hands in praise. Yet God's teachings illuminate the necessity of physical obedience in certain instances as a precursor to spiritual blessings. Take fasting, for instance. It's not merely an exercise in willpower, but a profound demonstration of our faith and submission through physical restraint, bridging our internal beliefs with the spiritual graces awaiting us. Consider the analogy of expressing love. Proclaiming love without outward demonstration can lead to doubts about its sincerity. Similarly, God instructs us that the external manifestation of our faith is sometimes essential for the flow of spiritual blessings. The power of physical obedience in our spiritual walk cannot be understated. When God calls for a physical act of worship, it's an opportunity to act in faith, understanding that such actions are conduits for spiritual liberation and the blessings He intends for us. The call to physical obedience is a divine strategy, revealing the profound link between earthly actions and heavenly power. Reflect on Moses, whose uplifted hands were not just a mere gesture, but a pivotal act unlocking victory. This story serves as a reminder of the transformative power of physical obedience in our spiritual journey, urging us to respond to God's call with faith and anticipation for the spiritual breakthroughs that follow. The strength of spiritual obedience. Imagine the scene. As long as Moses kept his arms raised, Israel triumphed. This vividly illustrates how adhering to physical obedience can unlock immense spiritual power, drawing down divine favor, celestial support, protection, healing, miracles, and abundant blessings. Engaging in fasting and prayer opens the floodgates to God's supernatural power and summons His angelic forces to our side. Our scriptures are replete with such truths, underscoring a profound dynamic. As we deepen our faith, we inevitably draw the adversary's gaze. Some might shy away from spiritual growth to avoid the devil's notice, yet the reality is stark. The enemy is already aware of us. The critical question then becomes, who stands more secure in battle? Is it the novice soldier or the seasoned general, surrounded by a formidable guard? Clearly the general, backed by an extensive protective force, is better shielded. In spiritual terms, advancing in faith and heeding God's call positions you akin to a general, enveloped by a wide-ranging and potent divine safeguard. The principle is clear. Elevating your faith level enhances the angelic guard around you. When God assigns you significant missions, He doesn't leave you defenseless, but shows up in remarkable ways. Consider the story of Elisha and his servant, surrounded by Syrian forces. Elisha's calm assurance amidst fear highlights a pivotal lesson. With higher faith and obedience comes unparalleled divine and angelic intervention, transforming our spiritual battles into victories. Are you enjoying this video? If so, please smash that like button, the intersection of divine love and favor. Have you ever pondered the intricate dance between divine love and favor? Let's explore this through the lens of a profound biblical narrative. Picture Moses, his arms raised high, commanding victory for Israel. This imagery isn't just about triumph, it's a testament to the power unleashed by physical obedience to God. Such acts of submission can draw down divine favor, celestial aid, protection, miracles, and blessings. When we engage in fasting and prayer, we tap into a surge of supernatural power, aligning ourselves with God's heavenly hosts. Consider the story of Daniel, who during a 21-day fast abstained from all but vegetables and water. This act of devotion brought him face to face with an angel, who called him greatly beloved by God. This title wasn't just a term of endearment, it signified Daniel's elevated status in the spiritual realm, a direct result of his tangible sacrifices and spiritual pursuit. This brings us to a pivotal distinction: God's love versus God's favor. God's love is unwavering, unconditional, and unchanging. It's a constant force, independent of our actions. However, God's favor is dynamic. It's initially gifted to us but grows as we actively seek and align with God's will. Through stories like Daniel's, we see that our physical acts of obedience can significantly amplify this divine favor. Daniel's experience underscores a vital spiritual principle. Our physical sacrifices can lead to an outpouring of God's favor and blessings. It's a divine exchange, where our actions in obedience trigger spiritual liberation and blessings far beyond our imagination. This dynamic isn't about earning God's love, but about stepping into a fuller experience of His favor. The angel's message to Daniel: "Do not fear, for from the first day that you set your heart to understand and humble yourself before your God, your words have been heard," reveals the profound impact of our spiritual dedication. Yet, Daniel's story also unveils the spiritual warfare that often accompanies our prayers. The angel's delay, caused by a demonic principality, illustrates the real and ongoing battle between good and evil, a battle where our faith and actions can tip the scales. This narrative isn't just ancient history, it's a vivid illustration of the spiritual reality we navigate daily. Our journey of faith, marked by physical obedience and spiritual pursuit, positions us as key players in a cosmic battle. It's a reminder that our actions have power, capable of invoking divine intervention and altering the course of spiritual warfare. In essence, the journey from divine love to divine favor is one of active engagement with God's will. It's about moving beyond the comfort of being loved by God to embracing the challenge of living in His favor. As we do, we become conduits of His power, agents of change in a world caught between the seen and the unseen. Finding your way back to God's favor. Have you ever felt disconnected from God, caught in a cycle of fear, anxiety, and despair? This often stems from losing touch with God's presence and getting too wrapped up in worldly matters. But there's a clear path back to peace and spiritual strength, and it's simpler than you might think. In Matthew 17:21, we find a powerful remedy: fasting and prayer. Prayer reconnects us to God, allowing us to hear His voice and feel His love. Fasting, on the other hand, helps us step back from the noise and demands of the world, focusing instead on what truly nourishes our souls. As someone who guides and cares for your spiritual journey, I practice this myself. It's a way to check in, to recognize when I've drifted from God and gotten too entangled in worldly distractions. Acknowledging this drift is the first step towards realignment with God's will. The beauty of fasting and prayer is that it brings us back into alignment with God, restoring our spiritual authority and anointing. It's about becoming greatly beloved by God, not out of pride, but from a place of deep humility and longing for His approval. So I encourage you, dedicate the next 21 days to drawing closer to God through fasting and prayer. It's not about claiming a title, but about genuinely seeking God's presence in your life. When we align our actions with God's will, we unlock a transformation in the spiritual realm, inviting God's favor and blessings into our lives. Let's embrace this journey together, aiming to experience the divine favor that God so eagerly wants to bestow upon us. Share this message with someone in need of encouragement, and may God bless you richly. Until next time, let's keep glorifying the Lord in all we do. Bible Short Stories, signing off.